You're listening to Barry Burnett on Investing Insights with Barry Burnett on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're rejoining a lively conversation with our special guest, Allison Salibian, investor, property manager, realtor, and my daughter.
Hi, Dad.
I'm so glad you're on the show.
Me too. This has been really fun.
Well, good, because this time we're going to ramp it up a little bit. We're talking to real estate investors, entrepreneurial investors. We're not talking to the banks or the savings and loans or the hedge funds. We don't really care about them because they have their own super experts that they don't listen to anyway. So perhaps the entrepreneurs will have an opportunity to pick up some interesting tips on this show.
Sure.
So what do you think about the impact of finance for investors? Do you think we ought to talk about that?
Yeah, I think that's a really big one. It's something that my husband and I always chew over, and we'd like more information.
So as we progress, as the show goes on in weeks to come, we'll be talking a lot about why would somebody refinance to re-leverage their portfolio?
That's a great question.
Well, okay. So you bought this building and it's been serving you really well and the cash flow is huge.
That's awesome.
And you've had it for 15 years. It doesn't upset you. It doesn't bother you. It doesn't keep you from doing your travel. It doesn't interfere with your home life. So the building is good, right?
Right.
Okay, so it's got great cash flow, but your CPA is nagging you about not having enough write-off because you did something called component depreciation. And you've written off a lot of that structure.
That's right.
Over 10, 15
Of
years
course.
because component depreciation, you have the privilege of setting up with your CPA
That's right.
on how to get a little bit more tax protection against all of that cash flow.
Sure.
But the cash flow is good, right?
Right.
Not always. What if it's not good to have that much cash flow right now?
Wow.
What if it's actually better to turn around after a 10, 15-year, 20-year period in a particular investment and borrow money back out against that, what may now be in massive equity?
Now this is kind of turning my head. I've heard you speak with investors over the years about this, and every time I walk past one of those meetings in the office, I get really excited, but I can't stick around because it's your meeting with them. But and I'm not quite there yet with my investment, so I'm really looking forward to hearing this, and I'm sure some of our investors, those long-term investors, are really excited too.
So the economy's gone back up, and some of your equities have gone back up.
That's right.
And if your equity is up and your loan is way down, you're not necessarily riding this to its maximum benefit. How can it benefit you? Let's say you want to do some travel. If you sell the building and you just sell out, then you get the privilege of paying unbelievable income tax, capital gains tax.
Absolutely.
You've got the federal government at 20%. If you've held the property for over a year, and you consult your CPA or your enrolled agent. I am not a tax specialist, but I watch this hit people full in the face, smack them dead in the eyes.
That's right.
So they pay 20% to the federal government. Then they pay 13.9% to the state of California. And now, with Obamacare, there's an additional 3.8%.
That's right.
How do you avoid that? Well, if you borrow against it before you exchange it or sell it, you can borrow against it tax-free.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, any money that you borrow against your investments, you can use it any way you like. It's your money. You only pay when you sell and the sale goes through to the government. If you exchange it, you have to move across what they call the exchange basis, what you bought it for, plus your capital improvements, whatever you put into the property and expenses, and versus what you're going to buy the next property for, you move it up. Now, you want to talk about how financing impacts your investments because there are rules to doing a 1031 exchange or any number of investment strategies. But how does finance actually play into this? If you leverage your properties and you still have a really strong cash reserve, you can have both the cash and the reserve and not sweat it. we have friends, you and I, who have put 50% down into a property, and then life came along.
That's right.
Okay, so life hit them, and they didn't have any cash reserves. They figured, oh, I'll put it down and I'll get as low a payment as possible. Ka-chunk.
That's right.
And they had to go and talk to their private banker or a specialist or mom and dad or family members and say, help, we've run into problems. What do we do now?
That's right.
Okay, if the ship is sinking, it doesn't have to sink all the way. You can get a hold of part of your equity through refinance or an equity line of credit. And sometimes you can just go and get a bank line of credit.
Okay.
So what happens if you then get a bank line of credit? It maybe cuts a little into your cash flow, but do you think that people would sleep better at night having a big cash reserve or access to a cash reserve?
Absolutely.
Would you rather have the cash sitting doing nothing, or would you rather have a line of credit that you could use if you had to?
Right. Absolutely.
So we're going to be talking to commercial and banker specialists on how to set up a cash reserve that really keeps your brains in your head.
All right.
Because this show is about stronger, safer, smarter.
Nice. So my question is, even if everything seems to be going great and you'd just like some cash to go on a vacation, or the grandkids have had grandkids and you'd like to go visit them and spend 6 months in Europe, something like that.
Absolutely.
That's an option. Or if you're running into trouble and you just do not have the cash reserves, you've put a big down and your ship seems to be sinking, you've got trusted advisors that are going to come on this show, and we can tune in and find out where we fit with this and how finance can help us out.
Right.
That's fantastic.
Thank you. Allison Salibian, our special guest on Investing Insights with Barry Burnett, here on Talk Radio 790, Investing Insights with Barry Burnett. We're talking about finance and how it impacts you. Yes, you can get a hold of cash. You can use your own cash, and you can borrow anything tax-free.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? Because it's your money. It's your equity.
That's right. Yeah, we've worked hard for it. It should be our money, correct?
So if you bought your property thinking it was going to be a dream and it's turned into a nightmare, let's rethink together. Mm-hmm. So contact your trusted advisor. If you don't have one, you can get a hold of them through us. We will put you in contact with the top tax attorneys, trust attorneys, CPAs, financial planners, stockbrokers, insurance specialists.
That's right. And it's on, I remember when long ago when we were establishing the network for the company, it was barryburnett.net, the only real estate network you need. And it's really true. It really is true. We've got an amazing network of trusted advisors. barryburnett.net, barryburnett.net.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. My pleasure.
So here you are, and you are thinking about borrowing money, and you are up against a real tight time frame. And you call your commercial banker, and the commercial banker says, that's going to take an appraisal. We're going to have to look at the underwriting criteria. How's your credit been lately? What have we got? And it may not be time for that.
Right.
And you've got to scramble.
Sure.
Guess what? There are safe places that you can scramble to. There are people called hard money lenders.
Right.
And they fulfill a need in the marketplace. Well, we'll have hard money lenders talking about their rates and terms. It's usually a short-term bridge the gap loan so that you can take advantage of an opportunity.
We know some good ones out there. They've done some amazing work for our clients, haven't they? And
they're not cheap, but they really fill a need.
That's right.
Also, did you know that you can borrow against some of your insurance programs or your pension funds?
That's right.
Sometimes it's cheaper to borrow against your pension fund for a real estate investment or for some use, or even to take a stock and bond margin account for some emergency opportunity. If you are an opportunistic buyer and you see something you can add to your portfolio, there's access to money, and you should have access